Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. This video is part of a series where we are developing a microservices-based social media application where our main goal is to learn the microservices pattern as well as its main challenges and some of the best practices to address these challenges. We are currently working in the authentication service and we have the plan to work in a front-end client, Kubernetes setup, Kafka setup, sharing the code, and then a notification service. Of course, there is more than only these 6 areas, but this is the short-term plan, let's call it like this. Here is a more detailed description of what we are working with, or a more detailed implementation. And if you are curious to see the different aspects that I've mentioned here, you can pause the video and go through these aspects. I will not go into details because I'm making this overview at the beginning of every video. So I think that for someone who is watching the playlist, this can be quite repetitive. So let's jump directly into the code. So in the last video, we implemented this mock email API. And what this does is that it implements a fake email sender API or a fake email API so that we can use it within our tests. Now, this is not really the best approach for us to go about this problem. And that's because, well, most probably this implementation of our response, this will change, right? So this is not the final shape of our response at the moment. So how can we even be a little bit more specific here? And we are not really interested about the exact shape of our response, but we are interested on whether the send email function was called. So why can we simply bypass the shape of our response? That we can only do because we are working with TypeScript, right? So if I come to my email sender and I go up here, I define exactly the shape that I want for my response. So when we go into implementing the actual email API and we return something that is different than this response, then TypeScript itself is going to prohibit us from compiling the code. So if we were working with JavaScript, then we would have to have considerably more tests to check for the shape of our response object here. But because we are working with TypeScript, we can delegate the task of checking for the exact elements of our response to TypeScript. So this gives us some flexibility in the mock email API to simply get rid of this whole thing. And you may be wondering, okay, what is he doing there? Well, I can also get rid of this. I can also get rid of this. And this, I can mark this as a simple underscore args. And I will change my tests now. Because now I'm not interested anymore in the email sender.send email response. What I am interested in is that I want to check if the send email method of my mock email API was actually called, right? So now I have 2 ways of doing that. Let's see if I can do it like this. So first we will, let's try 2 things here. So the first one, we will create a mock send email object, and we will expect this mock to have been called 1 time. Of course, it's going to fail. So let me start my test watcher here. Give it a couple of seconds until it fails because the method doesn't exist. So now I can implement this mock send email within my mock email API, and this is nothing more than just a jest mock function. So here I will export this as a constant so that I can access this within my email sender test, and here I will simply call this mock send email. So let's see what happens now. I need to update my tests to import this file. And let's see what happens with my tests. So once I save this again, now my tests should start to pass. Exactly. So what did we just do here? What we did here is that now we have a send email method that simply calls a function that uses this mocking functionality of jest so that we can register that the function was called. For example, if I wanted to do something like this, expect, let's say, mock email API dot send email dot, and then here maybe let's say that we don't pass any parameters, and I would expect this one to have been called one time. Let's see what's going to happen with the tests. Exactly, so it's not possible for us to identify that this function has been called because this function is an object that jest cannot handle programmatically as it can with mocks. Right? Another thing that would not be possible is if I were to call jest.fn directly in here. Right? This is also a problem because I cannot really link this jest.fn, and here it's even missing a promise, right? So I need to implement, if I want to, new promise with a resolve, and then I call this resolve with the jest.fn function within here, and still complaining. So as you can see, a lot of things are actually going wrong here, right? So if we start to implement jest.fn directly as it is, even if we manage to do it in a straightforward way, this would still be a problem because I cannot register, I don't have an object that is pointing to this jest.fn method. So I wouldn't be able to, in my test, check that that method was called because it's simply not assigned to anything. It's just a mock. It's saying, okay, ignore the actual implementation, just run this function as a mock, right? This is why we are using the mock send email as the return type here. Now this allows us to implement very straightforward methods. For example, which what we are going to do in the next video, we will change this mock send email to mock send verification, send sign up verification email. Or maybe we could even do this in this video. I think we have some time yet. So let's do this in this video. So what we are going to do is we will ignore the send email method, or let's say the send email method is not going to be part of our email API interface. And this method send sign up email verification or send sign up verification email is the one that is going to be in our interface. So let's go back to our tests, right? Should send the email correctly if the email sender is active and the email API is set. So I will change this test a little bit. I will write this at the bottom here. So it should send the sign up verification email if the sender is active and the API is set, right? So here I'm abbreviating a little bit. Maybe I can say email API here, just for the sake of completeness. And what we are going to do is we will virtually copy and paste this. Now I have my email sender. I have my mock email API. I activate, I set my email API. But here, what I want to do is I want to send sign up verification email. And this, I want to send it to a to email, right? So this argument is still the same. So now, as you can see, this is going to start complaining because my email sender doesn't have this method. So I'm not even give just the satisfaction of failing my tests. I will simply fix this. So in my email sender class, what we are going to change is that the email API is not going to have the send email method anymore. It's going to have a send sign up verification email. Now this is missing the method, so I will simply implement it here. Async send sign up verification email. Here I will get my arguments like this, and I think that this should be outside. Exactly. And now I need my curly braces. So now I can simply copy and paste this into the send sign up verification email, and this will be send sign up verification email. Now I don't really need this send email anymore. Why don't I need this send email anymore? Because in the future this is not a responsibility of the email sender. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that the send email, what I have in mind is that this is going to be a private method of my mock email API, or actually of my every single email API that we have. So we could even, I'm not sure how this works with private here. I don't think it works with private. So the problem is that in interfaces, it may be the case that we need to do a little bit of workaround, but we want to ensure that our email APIs, they have the send email method. Now, what is this send email going to do? It's going to be responsible for the internal mechanics of each email API. So NodeMailer uses a different mechanics, so a different dynamics to send email than the MailJet API. And the mock email API that we're using, it doesn't need to have any logic, right? So this specific piece of logic, the send email piece of logic, is going to be specific to our mock email, or not to our mock email API, but it's going to be specific to our email API. In the case of the mock email API, this doesn't need to be present, but in the other cases, then the send sign up verification email function would call the send email with the correct parameters and to customize the email that is sent by passing the correct parameters to that more generic send email function. So this function, summarizing, this function is too general, right? I think that we don't want to expose a general send email function. We want to expose only the functions that are required by our application, so that it can send only the emails that we really want to send. So we don't want to be having to customize the exact same method for a lot of different cases. This somewhat ruins the principle of the single responsibility of a function, right? So we want to have this intermediate step that is going to receive a few parameters that we need, and then it's going to call this send email generic function, and it's going to pass more details into it, and these details are going to be hard-coded within the send sign up verification email based on the email API we are implementing. So this can simply disappear. And now in my mock email API, I don't have the send email method anymore. I have the send sign up verification, right? Send sign up verification email. And here I would just update this to send sign up verification email. And I'll return send sign up verification email. Now everything is working as expected. This test is going to start to fail, and that's okay. We will delete this test, but I just wanted to make the transition so that we can work with this new test before we delete the old test. So now here, as you can see, I need to have a mock send sign up verification. In my email sender, I would have the send sign up verification email. And here I would also have send sign up verification email. This one is going to disappear. And now I have not a mock send sign up, not send email, but mock send sign up verification email. Let's see how our tests behave. Exactly. So now all our tests are passing, and we have managed to abstract the logic, so the internals of sending the email, to the individual email APIs that we'll implement. So we still don't have this. Let's say, for example, here we could also say export const, and this could be something that we can work in the next video, where we will quickly extend the mock email API to simulate, to have that generic send email method that we wanted to implement. Okay, so I think that this video is already long enough, and we can come back in the next video and implement this quick extension to not only the mock email API, but also to the email sender, not the email sender, but the email API interface. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for your attention, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.